the best HLTV fantasy player we've had ever. It's Lucy.
Well, guys, if you're still on for Diamond, you're either insane or a genius. Unfortunately, I am neither of those things, so I can't get Diamond anymore, but we're still going to keep trying. Want to make sure we get at least gold. Looking at the stage 3 Pickems, I think the only one that I'm 100% confident on is the 3-0 from Vitality. I think we should all be pretty confident in that one. I said the same thing about Falcons, but Vitality have won 30 games in a row, and even though it's best of ones, full faith. In terms of the second team, I think you either go Mouse or Spirit. Originally, I was leaning towards Mouse just from track record, but they've got VP first, and I don't know, I just feel like with Spirit, Don comes in strong, best of ones, he can just farm. I'm going to go them 3-0, but I think Mouse is just as valid. In terms of the advancing teams, obviously Mouse is the other. These three are going to be in this configuration for everyone, I feel, in some form or another. For the rest, I think Mongols, I have confidence in going through. They've looked really good. I'm not certain on Aurora. I've not loved their recent performances. Their form hasn't looked the best. And I feel the same about G2 with Hades, with Snack still. There's just nothing about G2 that gets me excited. I think Na'Vi can get through. I think that they've been the same team for like a year, right? Over a year. I think coming into this stage, they've been doing a lot of prep. They've had time off. I'm okay with Na'Vi. I think FaZe can get through again. I think that they're building up. And sure, they had that rough loss to 3D Max, but I don't think that's going to phase them. And I think just firepower alone is enough for them to get through. I'm not so sure on 3D Max, even though they had that good win over FaZe. I think that they're a team that sometimes doesn't show up and can get stumped out. And I'm worried about them against the higher tier of competition here. So I'm not going 3D Max. Liquid, I gotta have some faith in NA. I gotta put at least one North American team. There is only one North American team. I've got to put them going through. So we're gonna put Liquid. I think that they can get through here with some of the competition that's on display here. Don't like VP much. I think Furia is going to be my last that goes through. I think that they looked pretty good during stage 2, and I have good enough confidence that they can get through here. I could see them losing to like an Aurora or G2, but I don't know. I kind of like this project. I like what they're doing. I'm excited to see more. I'm gonna put them going through. Leaves my O3s, and for me, it can't be Pain. And I think that Lin Vision can win at least one game here. They've got that exciting flair to them that I think can win one. So I'm not going to learn from my mistakes, and I'm going to put Legacy O3 again. This is not going to work, but whatever. And then Namiga is my final O3. I thought they kind of only just scraped through during the stage 2, and I think this is about where their run ends. So that's going to be my Pickems. Let me know if you're still on for Diamond. I'd be very impressed if you are. And if you are, let me know what you're doing. The only one I may be controversial here is not having Aurora, and I guess not having G2, but yeah, I don't know. I think this is where I'm going to sit. So let's take a look at the fantasy for this event. So with our players this time around, I feel that the prices are a lot more reasonable for the top teams than they have been in the previous event. Like you look at what Falcons prices were, and Vitality are cheaper, or at least kind of on par, right? And Vitality, we have so much more confidence in. So I don't think you can go wrong here. I think it's worth noting that you can get Flamesy and Mezzy for the same price as Rops and Apex, and what you do with that information is up to you. But going double Vitality is, I think, a must-do here, unless you want to go double Mouse or double Spirit instead, like if you're doing a donk draft, for instance. But Vitality is just impossible not to have the confidence in, and so I think doubling down makes a lot of sense. I love a few of the Mouse prices. I think particularly Spinks and Jimfat really stand out to me as good value. Not so sure on Brolin. I know that he can have good games, but for 193, I think you're better off looking at some of the better players from the lower ranked teams. Same with Chopper. I would not go either of these IGLs, but I think that Magix and Zontics are decent prices. Donk's there if you want to do a donk draft, which I would not blame you for. And Shiro's always been consistent, but would you want to go Shiro over Rops? I'm not sure, to be honest. I feel that's 50-50 for me. Maybe you would, if you got confidence in Spirit. Love Mongol's pricing. I think particular, I really like Techno as an eco pick, and I like 910 as just a general drafting pick. He's been pretty on par with Senzu in a lot of games, and often will just take over a game. So I really like 910 as like the one player I would want to grab on Mongols outside of Techno. Aurora's pricing, I think, is pretty much in the same ballpark as the Mongols, but I have less confidence in them as a team. But I do think that Walk 6 kind of decent for 207, but I'd personally lean more towards 910. Na'Vi, I think there's a team that a lot of people are going to sleep on. I think that Bit in particular for 208 is really interesting. But yeah, all of their kind of main players are pretty decent price points as a player you could just grab. And I think a lot of people will be sleeping on Na'Vi, so it could be an opportunity to maybe get a cheeky pick, but I'm not going to. But the option's there. Don't really love G2. Already said I don't think they're going to go through, but I think Hunter for 190 is very good price. But yeah, I don't really think this team goes through. But if you did want to grab a good budget player, like I think Hunter is probably better than Chopper or Brolin? Question mark? Maybe? Probably. Liquid, great value across the board. Twist, obviously 203 the star, but for me, the players that jump out are Nerds at 192. That feels really cheap for Nerds at this stage on a Liquid that I think can get through. And then Shugo for 173 as a cheap budget IGL. Although, personally, if you can stretch the budget to NAF, I think he could also be a decent choice, right? He's the same price as Carrigan and G2 and Snacks, roughly, obviously 2k more. So you do need to have that spare 2k, but if you do have it, I think NAF's worth it over either of them. Phases prices, brilliant. I think Simple, 202. That's a crazy price for Simple. Obviously, FaZe might not make it through the stage, right? They barely made it through the last stage, so this stage is a lot tougher. So it's still a very risky pick, but 202, 204, 190, even Carrigan, but yeah, I mean, for 178 on a team that can probably go through just about, not too bad with these roles. Yeah, I love FaZe's pricing. And then once you get to this point, these are the teams that I think are kind of borderline, right? They're probably in the 30 to 40% chance of getting through. Your VPs, your Furious, your 3D Maxes. And this is where you got some really good budget picks, right? Electronic had a great stage 1. Icy, Fame, both really well priced. You've got your Kinder for 191. He was the best rated player on Furia during stage 2. Yuri, 192, also great. All of 3D Max are super cheap. So I think there's definitely some cool little players you can grab here, especially if you're going for like a donk style draft. I'd be looking at some of these players on the teams that are kind of borderline. I think once you cross this 3D Max threshold, I'm not sure about Legacy, not sure about Pain, Linvision, or Namiga. I mean, they've got some very cheap players, but I think you're getting a lot more risky once you get past 3D Max, in my opinion. But Pain looked decent during stage 2. I mean, there's arguments, right, for all these teams. It's so unpredictable, I think, is the thing at the end of the day, that it's hard to give good advice because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Best of ones is so hard to predict that I think as long as you're picking good players and you're rooting yourself in at least one of these top 3 teams with a double down, you should be okay. For my team, worth noting, it's literally impossible for me to lose the celebrity leaderboard, I think. Unless like someone gets a 1% on both final games and I don't get any points, it's impossible to lose. So I take a little bit of risk. I am going to ground myself in safety. I'm going to go Flames and Mezzy as my duo from Vitality, but then I'm going to have a little bit of fun with it. And I am going to go and grab Simple, which means I need Carrigan, leaves me with exactly the right amount of money to grab Nerds. I wanted to grab Simple for 202. I couldn't pass on him. I think Nerds might be a sleeper pick. Like, he's really cheap. So 4 really good fraggers at the cost of 1 IGL. It's not bad. It's not bad. So that's my team. Let me know what you're drafting. Let me know what you're cooking up. And as always, good luck.